The one national program that we are announcing today will ensure that there is one and only one set of national fuel economy standards as Congress mandated and intended. No state has the authority to opt out of the nation's rules, and no state has the right to impose its policies on everybody else in our whole country. Because newer cars are safer, the standards will save thousands of lives and prevent tens of thousands of serious injuries. So with today's One National Program rule, the administration is standing up for all Americans, their needs, and their right to choose. We will not let political agendas in a single state be forced upon the other 49, and we will always put safety first.
This is Mitch McConnell's wife giving her husband a run for his money with regard to who can do the most damage to this country. As Transportation Secretary, Elaine Chao is in charge of the Trump administration's new One Nation program rule, which is a direct attack on the state of California. Since 1968, the state has been granted a waiver to set higher emission standards for cars than the federal government. And that's important because Californians buy more cars than any other state. And 13 other states plus Washington, D.C. have also adopted California's rules, meaning unless a car company is looking to only sell to just over half the country, the standards that California sets are effectively the standards for the United States. But as of now, the Trump administration has revoked that waiver, and they did it under a barrage of blatant lies. Right off the bat, Chao undermines the entire Republican Party's supposed platform by saying no state has the authority to opt out of the nation's rules. Only this must be the Twilight Zone, because this is a Republican completely destroying the concept of states' rights, which has been a rallying cry for the right since forever. But I'm pretty sure the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution states explicitly that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the framers otherwise explicitly gave the federal government the power to impose national emission standards for cars in the United States Constitution. Unless I missed it. And her justifications continue to devolve from there. She claims that by rolling back fuel efficiency standards, companies will be able to save money, which will keep the cost down, and then more Americans can afford cleaner, safer cars. Only part of the cost we pay go toward allowing car companies to continue innovating. And it's that very innovation that has made those cars safer and cleaner. We have cars that get 50 miles to a gallon now, which means you're filling up a fraction of how much you filled up 10, 20, 30 years ago when you only got 8 miles to a gallon. We have cars that are league safer than before because the government has imposed stricter safety regulations that companies then follow. We have cars that burn fuel cleaner than before because of emissions regulations, which is why places like LA are no longer blanketed by smog. All of those things are objectively good. So to claim that allowing companies not to innovate is somehow going to help us is the epitome of short-sightedness. Trump is basically saying, okay, cars are as safe and efficient as they'll ever be, so let's go ahead and stop innovating, stop spending money on R&D. This is it, reach the end of the road, now just make them cheap. But we wouldn't do this with anything else, not with iPhones or TVs or computers, so why on earth would we do it with cars? And look, clearly this administration knows that. They know that rolling back emission standards is not going to make anyone safer, isn't going to make the air cleaner, isn't going to make cars more affordable. What this is Trump weaponizing his office. It's an attack on the state of California, which, as one of the bluest states in the nation, is being punished for its lack of fealty to the president. It's an attack on Obama, who made the cardinal sin of implementing stricter fuel efficiency standards, just like the Republican president before him did. I mean, we are lucky that Obama didn't cure cancer because Trump would have mandated that it come back in full force. And finally, it's an attack yet again on solutions for climate change. And because more than 20% of US greenhouse gas emissions come from cars and light-duty trucks, it would only make sense that Trump would mitigate any effort possible to move in the right direction. And while I'm sure pettiness alone is enough to drive Trump, there's another obvious reason. money. Fossil fuel companies fund Republicans at an exponentially higher rate than Democrats. Almost all of the top 20 recipients of oil and gas money are Republicans. Higher fuel efficiency standards would mean less gas, which means less money for them. So they donate to Republicans like Trump, who then roll back fuel efficiency standards to the benefit of literally no one except the companies who profit off of gas. It's simple. We all pay more because Trump wants to cash a fat check for his re-election. And it's not just with gas. Imposing self-harming actions on behalf of special interests have become the cornerstone of the Republican Party. We now have people who are cheering on the fact that they'll get worse fuel efficiency in their cars because of Trump. Just like he has people cheering on the idea that they should buy light bulbs that can last as little as 2% as long as new LED bulbs. Trump has people cheering on the fact that they will lose access to healthcare, that their government will allow the effects of climate change to continue to worsen, that they'll relax gun restrictions in the face of more and more mass shootings, all harming Americans, all to the benefit of corporations. I mean, honestly, if Marlboro asks nicely, we're one step away from the White House rolling back age restrictions on smoking and Trump fans packing cigarettes in their kids' lunchboxes. But despite the administration's best efforts to destroy everything for the sake of destruction, this move rolling back fuel efficiency standards is already on shaky legal ground. The White House has invoked the Clear Air Act, claiming it has inherent authority to revoke California's waiver, but the Clean Air Act only gives the EPA the ability to deny a waiver before it's granted, not the ability to revoke one after it's been granted. In other words, because California already had been granted the waiver under a previous administration, Trump doesn't have the legal authority to take it away. But this is all clearly indicative of a way bigger problem for the Republican Party. I know that we say this so much that it almost doesn't mean anything anymore, but if the GOP doesn't stand for states' rights, what does it have left? Family values? From the party whose leader was caught sleeping with porn stars and Playboy models while his wife was at home pregnant with their son? Law and order? From the party actively working to cover up a spate of crimes on behalf of the president, including obstruction of justice and emoluments clause violations? Fiscal responsibility? From the party that just passed a $1.5 trillion tax cut for the rich and has allowed our debt to explode beyond anything we've ever seen before? Love for our military? From the party doing absolutely zero as Trump uses the defense budget to siphon money into his failing Turnberry resort in Scotland, which lost $4.5 million in 2017 and was miraculously up $3 million in 2018 after the military became its biggest client? I'd honestly love to know what the GOP actually represents, because if you ask me, it doesn't stand for anything besides being a cult of personality for Trump.